He guided her to a nearby bench. The soldier resisted at first, training, pride, instinct, but eventually she let herself sink down. Her hands trembled uncontrollably as she pressed them to her lap. She looked so young up close. Maybe 24, 25 at most. Yet her eyes carried the haunted weight of someone who had seen things far older than her. Ethan hesitated before sitting beside her, giving her space, but staying close enough in case she collapsed again. She kept staring straight ahead, cheeks pale, breath unsteady, as if focusing on the wall was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. A few strands of hair had slipped from her bun and clung to her damp forehead. "You're all right," he said quietly. She didn't look convinced. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She tried again. I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't," Ethan replied gently. "You just scared me for a moment." That startled her. She blinked at him with a confused expression, like she wasn't used to being someone worth worrying about. "I'm supposed to be better than this," she whispered. Ethan tilted his head slightly. "Better than what? Human?" The corner of her mouth twitched, the ghost of a sad smile. "You're not military," she said, studying him with cautious curiosity. "Nope." "Then you wouldn't understand. Try me." Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes dropped to her trembling hands, and she rubbed her palms slowly against her pants as if trying to erase something invisible from her skin. Ethan saw the way her shoulders tightened, defensive, protective. "Wounded? You're shaking," Ethan murmured. "It happens," she said, voice sharp but brittle. "Side effects." "From?" She turned away, jaw tightening. "Just treatment." He didn't push. He'd learned long ago that some people needed silence more than questions. A nurse walked by, giving a quick glance toward them, but when she recognized Ethan's uniform, she simply nodded politely and kept moving. Lena stiffened until the footsteps faded. "You okay?" Ethan asked. No," she answered honestly, and immediately looked startled by her own truthfulness. Ethan smiled softly. "Thanks for not lying." She let out a ragged breath. She seemed to be fighting something inside her: fear, pride, shame, exhaustion. "Maybe all of it at once. You don't have to sit alone," he said. "I usually do," she replied quietly. "Well," he said, leaning back on the bench, "today you don't." She looked at him, then really looked, and something in her expression shifted. Not trust. Not comfort. But the first crack in the armor she'd wrapped around herself. "Ethan, right?" she asked. He nodded. "I'm Lena." He smiled. "Nice to meet you, Lena." She nodded back once, but her eyes lingered on him as if she didn't quite know what to make of his calmness. Her breaths were steadier now. Not normal, but steadier. After a few minutes, she pushed herself to her feet. "I should go. They'll be calling me soon." "For your discharge?" he asked. She froze. "Supposedly." Ethan caught the flicker of fear she tried to hide. "You don't want to go?" Lena let out a shaky exhale. "I don't know." "Then take your time." She stared at him for a long moment, then stepped away, walking slowly, carefully, her boots faintly echoing through the hallway. Ethan watched until she rounded the corner, feeling an odd weight in his chest. She was hurting. Badly. And someone should have noticed long before she nearly collapsed in an empty corridor. He just didn't expect that someone to be him. The rest of Ethan's shift blurred by, but that moment with Lena stayed sharp in his mind, refusing to fade. Every hallway he cleaned reminded him of the look in her eyes, fear mixed with exhaustion, strength tangled with fragility. It was the same look he had once worn himself years ago, when the world felt too heavy and too loud, and he was left picking up his life in pieces. Maybe that's why she stayed with him, even after she walked away. At home, Mara greeted him with a running jump, wrapping her small arms around his waist. "You're home," she exclaimed. Ethan laughed, scooping her up. "Yes, I am." Mara studied his face closely, as kids often do. "You're thinking about something." "Someone," Ethan corrected gently. Mara's eyebrows lifted playfully. "A lady?" Ethan chuckled. "Just someone who had a rough day." Mara nodded with the solemnity of a tiny philosopher. "Then maybe she needs a story. Stories make bad days better." "Maybe," Ethan whispered. "Maybe they do." Later that night, after she was asleep, he found himself staring at the ceiling. Thinking of a young soldier with trembling hands and haunted eyes. Thinking about how she tried to hide her pain. Thinking about how alone she must be. He wished he could have done more, but he didn't know her. Not really. He didn't know her story yet. He didn't know she'd be back. Before sunrise the next morning, Ethan was already at the facility. He told himself it was because he wanted a head start on his work, but his eyes kept drifting toward the bench. At 5:27 a.m., a shadow appeared in the hallway. Lena. She moved like someone carrying invisible weight. Her shoulders slumped, her uniform slightly more wrinkled than yesterday, her steps slow and hesitant. She looked around as if hoping no one would see her. When she noticed Ethan, she froze. They stared at each other for a moment, then she walked toward him, her expression unreadable. "You're early," she said softly. "So are you." She sighed, sitting on the same bench as yesterday. "They postponed my discharge. Again." Ethan set his mop aside and sat with her. "Why?" Her hands tightened in her lap. "They said I'm not in the right condition to leave." "And are you?" he asked gently. Lena hesitated, her voice cracked. "I don't know how to be anywhere outside anymore." There it was, the truth she'd been holding back. Ethan didn't speak. He didn't rush to reassure her, or give advice, or pretend he understood. He just sat there, listening, steady as a rock beside her. Lena blinked rapidly, trying to swallow her emotions. "I'm tired, Ethan. Not just physically. I'm tired in places I can't explain." Ethan nodded slowly. "You don't have to explain. Not to me." "No one said that to me before," she whispered. A silence wrapped around them, but it wasn't heavy. It was grounding. Healing. After a few moments, she inhaled sharply, bracing herself. "I should go. They'll call me soon." "Take this then," Ethan said. She looked confused. "Take what?" "5 breaths," he said calmly. "Slow ones." Lena blinked hard, her eyes glassy. But she did it. She breathed slowly, counting on her fingers. Her trembling eased a little. When she opened her eyes, she looked at him in quiet disbelief. "That helped." "Good," Ethan said softly. She stood, steadier this time. Before walking away, she hesitated, as if wrestling with her own courage. Then she reached into her pocket, pulling out a small folded piece of paper. She pressed it into his hand without meeting his eyes. "Open it later," she whispered, and then she walked off, boots clicking lightly against the floor. Ethan waited until she disappeared before unfolding the note. Her handwriting was neat, careful, like she had rewritten it once or twice. "Thank you. No one ever waits with me." Ethan's chest tightened. She had been carrying everything alone. For far too long. He folded the note carefully and tucked it into his pocket. This wasn't just a moment of kindness. It was the beginning of something neither of them understood yet. Something fragile, something unexpected, something that might save them both. And Ethan knew one thing with absolute certainty: he wasn't going anywhere.